All right, folks, this is the thing that almost nobody knows about. You got to see it. Just came out. It says Behind Disney's Experiences, a secret 3,000-person team. The headline here is clearly not what I would label it. It says, working in hidden buildings, Imagineers are tasked with bringing the Disney magic on time and on budget. And in the business, folks, in the business, we call that foreshadowing. Get ready. This is unbelievable. Disney thought it scored a bargain cruise ship. Then its secretive design wizards blew up the budget. The company paid $40 million for a half-finished gambling vessel, expecting to spend about $1 billion to convert it into a family ship. Now, folks, if you've been paying attention to That Park Place as well as the Valiant Renegade channel, you all know that this was one heck of a, and I think that's a single word, one heck of a purchase by Josh D'Amaro. And about 2 years ago, Valiant was even saying that that might be good enough for Josh D'Amaro to get the CEO position. But boy, oh boy, did they blow it. It says, once Walt Disney Imagineering took over, however, and remember, who took it over? It's the same people who brought you Tiana's Bayou Adventure. It's the same people who can't make a single attraction without it being a disaster. These are the wokeifieds. They come in with wokeified credentials, and I'm afraid that their brains might be a little fried. They don't know what they're doing. Carmen Smith hiring all of them straight out of SoCal, based on how they were born and what their preferences are in the bedroom. You got it. These individuals, these Imagineers, not the old ones, not the legends. Let's just say they messed up. Here's the story. Once Walt Disney Imagineering took over, however, the retrofit turned into what one ex-Imagineer, wonder why they're an ex-Imagineer. You think this is a legend person? You think this is a Disney legend who's like, you wouldn't believe. Likened it to transforming a Honda into a Hummer. Engineers gutted the middle of the ship, punched through steel supports, enlarged kitchens, and made space for a Marvel stunt show at a dozen themed restaurants. Hey, fun fact, folks, secret for y'all. I bet you before they started, they knew that. Do you think they knew that? I think they knew that. I think they knew they were going to do that. The tab for the ship, now called the Disney Adventure, swelled to roughly $1.8 billion. And its debut in Singapore was pushed from last month to March, forcing mass refunds and rebookings. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to bring in another panelist as we get ready to talk about this. We're bringing Ron from Father Bradley's Fun. This is amazing to me because when Disney invests $1 billion in a fortnight, there's headlines about it, and they tell us what a big deal it is. When Disney invests $1 billion into OpenAI with Sam Altman, get that Sora Disney AI generated video going for Disney Plus, the headlines everywhere. It's a big deal. $1 billion, big deal. MJ, Ron, the new crop of Imagineers who cannot make anything that works. They overspent by nearly $1 billion. And when you get to the refunds and all that, we don't know what amount that is, but it might get them up to the $1 billion mark. I mean, 2 months of refunds and rebookings for a brand new cruise. I mean, it had to be at capacity. They overspent by just about $1 billion, and it's buried in this article. They completely gave away the win that Josh D'Amaro had. And I got to say, guys, this is unbelievable to me. This is unbelievable that any part of Disney would be allowed to overspend by $1 billion. MJ, I go to you first on this. Your thoughts on the cruise line? I mean, this is the numbers are astronomical. How much they messed up, and nobody is talking about this until now. What say you, MJ?
Yeah, I heard about the massive refunds, but everyone kind of knew that they weren't going to be on time with this project. This is one of the largest ships they have thus far, and I think they were trying to compete with the style and complexity of the Royal Caribbean ships, especially like the newer ones that just debuted, I believe last year. They're brand new. They have like this ginormous, I want to call it almost like a city place in the middle, and your room can overlook like the inside of the ship. It's mimicking those competitors, and I think that's why they were like, well, wait a minute, let's just, overspend so that we can give folks something to, get excited about. This is the largest one. This ship is going to have more, is going to be able to hold more folks than the other ones. And I really think if you compare the Royal Caribbean, the newer ones, to this new Disney cruise ship, it's just going to go hand in hand. But if you're a Disney person, you're more inclined to go on this one because of the shows and the entertainment. They've been, honestly, I'm not going to lie. I know they overspend, but they've been killing it on the ships, and it's forcing more and more people to take their vacations on the ships on the sea, because that's where the magic is. And it's got that, some of them even have that, indoor, like the theming, even the car, the tables, the chairs that you sit in. We want theming, and that's where the theming is. As a matter of fact, we're probably going on a Disney cruise later this year because it's just so enticing. That's the interior I'm talking about right there, that photo. It looks exactly like the one from Royal Caribbean that just came out last year.
Yeah, and I don't have any problem with the, as we've said repeatedly, the cruise lines are essentially the best functioning part of Disney right now. Mm-hmm. What is not functioning well, though, is when you overspend by $1 billion. I mean, it's really hard to wrap your mind around that. And somehow, some way, Ron, the Imagineers had a very incorrect estimate about this. I want to go a little bit deeper into the story and read this to you. It says the adventure is the most visible example of the high-cost, high-reward bets made by Imagineering, the roughly 3,000-person unit quietly designing Disney's rides, lands, and ships. Long cloistered in unmarked buildings bound by non-disclosure agreements, Imagineers have delivered some of Disney's most enduring attractions and some of its biggest delays and cost overruns. The division at the center of Disney's future, and the company plans to pour $60 billion into its experiences business by 2023. Now, folks, all we got to do then is figure out, okay, if there's $60 billion being poured into this, and that's all the theme parks and everything that Imagineering touches, $60 billion over the next, 7 years? Mm-hmm. Then that's less than $10 billion per year. So when we're talking about a $1 billion overspend, even at a time when they are hyper investing in this, that is still more than 10% of the total Imagineering budget for the year that exceeded what was even imagined was going to be a part of this. Ron, that's a big, big problem for Disney. And the reason I bring it up is because they can't have this happen again with Villains Land. They can't have this happen again with...
Oh, they won't. Right. Not the parks. The parks won't get that kind of extension. Just for some reason, this ship got like overspent. Go ahead, Ron.
I think that they will absolutely go over budget in the parks. That's what's happened a whole bunch of times. Or the other thing that happens are the cuts in the parks. And then we have Epcot that was supposed to have a beautiful fountain that replaced Fountain of Americas. There was supposed to be a beautiful fountain in the middle, not there. There's supposed to be a 3-tiered festival building that you could go on the top of to watch the firework, not there. That's replaced by Communicore and a stage that nobody goes to. So yeah, you get a bunch of cuts in the parks. They overspend in the ships. I'm just trying to figure out what Imagineers are tasked with figuring out how they can create lightning lane expenditures on the ships, because that's gotta be what they're gonna they gotta make up the money somewhere. And instead of increasing the guest experience, at least in the parks, what they've been doing is trying to figure out ways that they can monetize literally everything. So I'm assuming that they're going to figure out how to monetize more things on the ships once you get on. Oh, yeah. Hey, there's another experience that, used to be the kind of thing that would have been included, but now it's going to be monetized or this or that or the other. I have no idea, but I know my parents have been on a Disney cruise. I've never been on a Disney cruise. But the other thing that I'm looking at here, and this is, I certainly hope that there's no other world situation that shuts down cruising for like 2 years, right? Because that would be really bad, right?
Yeah, all that money down the drain. They won't get anyone on that ship if that happens. But this ship is like massive. They're known for being all inclusive, right? So you pay your one-time fare, and that your taxes, your fees, and if you want to add gratuity and travel protection, and that includes your food, 24-hour room service. It's supposed to include all your entertainment. But I can see what you're saying, Ron. Maybe with this one, the Adventurer, they're going to have an upcharge for certain experiences. If that's the case, that's not cool, that's going to suck. That's not nice.
Well, it already sucks in the parks because
True.
if you go back to the commercial from 2015 that everybody knows that like is featured, Zippity Doodah is a featured song in the commercial. That's what it ends with. There were all kinds of things that you used to get included in the price of your resort and a ticket to the parks that you don't get now. And it was less expensive back then. So not only have they taken away perks, they've also increased the cost while taking those perks away. And I can't see that they're going to have any other choice but to do this. If not in the ships, they'll find some other place that they can make up for it.
I think, too, we need to differentiate between the Imagineering groups that have been at Disney, because we want to be careful not to be negative about Imagineers of old.
Oh, no,
and we're not calling you old, we promise. But the Imagineers that brought us, for example, Pandora, an absolute stunning group of geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
It's since then, when they emptied out so many of those geniuses and brought in the younger Imagineers who they don't have the credentiality they need, they don't have the expertise they need. Ron, do you know exactly how much they spent on Epcot, on the redo of Epcot, which was the next thing that came about after they emptied out the old guard of Imagineers? The last I heard, it was about $2 billion, but I don't know if it went higher.
That sounds about right. And I'm pretty sure that they had to budget cut on that because it was supposed to be more. The thing with the new crop of who they're calling Imagineers, which is really sad because the title means something different than what it used to. It really is just engineers now, right? So in the past, the Imagineers, first they came from the movie industry, and it literally was, there are Imagineers like Bob Gurr, who's famous, right? Some of the older names that we know are famous. Joe, wow, the animal kingdom. Joe Rohde. Like these guys, they were famous. They used to come, like, one of the cool things when I was a cast member, there actually were opportunities as a cast member where what they would say is if you sign up for this, there's only going to be like 30 people it's very, very limited. So sign up quick and you're going to get a talk with Joe Rohde on such and such a date at like 6 a.m. You had to go in really early to get that. I never did even get the opportunity to do that, but it used to be that big of a deal. And I can't imagine that there's a single name in Imagineering right now who you'd want to hear from. Like, do we really want a 30-minute lecture on shape language? I mean, come on.
And we're not trying to malign every Imagineer out there. And we love the cruises. The ships are great and the experience is great. It's, like the water parks is one of the last places you can go and really feel Disney again. Yeah. But going $1 billion over budget, that's too much. And so I worry that leadership now is going to say, you know what, we're going to keep tight reins on you. And if they do, that could result in some budget cuts for things like whatever it is beyond Big Thunder Mountain Red they're doing with the villains and everything. And we don't want to see that because Magic Kingdom is the most important asset in all of the Walt Disney Company's portfolio. There's nothing more important. I know people think Star Wars, it's not. I know people think Marvel, it's not. I know people say Disney princesses, Disney Plus. No. Literally, the Walt Disney World Resort brings in by far the most revenue for the Walt Disney Company as a percentage. And the catalyst for everything Walt Disney World is Magic Kingdom. Mm-hmm. Don't screw it up, Disney. MJ, I'll give you the final thoughts on this one.
Yeah, no, they really need to invest more in the parks. We all know that the parks are in dire need of TLC. I'm just so scared. I'm trying to remain hopeful for the new, what's yet to come into the Magic Kingdom. I know they're repainting the castle. Thank you for doing that. But there's some areas in the Magic Kingdom that really need a refurb. They need extra maintenance and they really need to pay attention to that. That park is their bread and butter and they need to remember that.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.